PISA report. Joining us to talk about it is educational consultant and one of our favourite respondents on the platform, Alwyn Poole. Alwyn, how are you?
Pretty good, I think.
They haven't chosen you for the minister's office yet. What's going on?
I don't expect that invite to come too soon at the moment. But you know, we'll see.
Hope springs eternal, doesn't it? You know.
That's it.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question at the beginning? It's not really an education one, but you know a lot more about Parliament than I do. I'm bemused, would be the politest way, astounded that the Green Party people not only turned up to the swearing in, but are sitting in Parliament in garb that aligns with effectively Hamas. How is that acceptable?
Well, it's just a fashion statement at the end of the day. So, I mean, it's not like they are portraying the Hamas flag or something like that, which would be another thing, but they're wearing a piece of... it's the Palestinian scarf, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is... I understand what you're saying, but I think they're differentiating between the Palestinian cause and the Hamas terrorist group, aren't they?
I don't know, because, I mean, I go back to that protest where Chloe Swarbrick, who I would have thought her position as Auckland Central MP would have been pretty untenable. You know, chanting a slogan that's a key pitch in the Hamas documents.
For some strange reason in this country, we tend to give, it has to be said, we tend to give the left and left-wingers in this country a latitude we're not prepared to extend to Conservatives or the right, don't we?
Well, I think we do. And, you know, particularly over the last 2 or 3 weeks, as some of the really obscene information has come out, and Sean Plunket talked about, you know, going along to that 47 minutes of almost unenduring video footage. And, you know, the behaviour towards women, the behaviour towards hostages. I can understand totally the concern about innocent civilians in Palestine. But goodness, they seem to be portraying one as a right and one as a wrong. And, you know, I'd had major concerns. It was an aside, but I saw the scarves being worn, and I just wondered what Parliament's normal rules were.
They used to have stricter rules. They used to have ties, so you can get in without wearing a tie at the moment now as well, I've noticed. So, you know. The problem has always been women's dress code, to be honest with you. Men knew what a dress code looked like. It consisted of a suit and a shirt and a tie, so it was pretty simple. But under Labour, in the last 6 years, they relaxed it because women were dressing in a lot less formal garb, so they decided, we'll let the men do it. And if you remember rightly, they even started bringing babies into the chamber. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
It all went to hell then.
The guy Steve Abel looks as if he got lost on the way to Woodstock. But, you know, that's okay.
Yeah. No, it's not the formal institution it was. But then, do we respect Parliament anymore? I don't know. But it has become a sort of farcical theatre. I agree with you.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Now, Alwyn, going to the PISA report, the things, once you go into it, the detail is in some ways much more interesting than the headline that New Zealand students aren't actually getting any better. I found some of the detail fascinating, and the one that struck me was bad teachers and also classroom control, classroom behaviour, which I think are underestimated in terms of their effect upon learning behaviour. Would you agree?
Yeah. One of the things that I don't know whether I was told or I just observed it when I had my first few years teaching at Tauranga Boys, and I had some really good role models there, was that if a class or students in one of my classes were badly behaved or problematic, it was my fault. And what I meant by that is that I wasn't prepared enough, I wasn't organised, I didn't have enough for them to do. Maybe I didn't know the content well enough, and I hadn't done something that I've passed on to a lot of teachers that I work with, which I call pre-management. So I know who's coming into my classroom. They sit where I want them to sit, because, often there can be almost conflicts by nature between some kids. I see them coming into the classroom and catch their eye, make sure they've been noticed. I see any kids who maybe look as if they're not in good shape for some reason, and often we'll give them a minute to stand outside so I can come and check them out. Plus also, let's say, a child, he's not been so good the day before, then as they come in, I'll acknowledge that and say it's a new start. Mm-hmm. And so the behaviour in my classroom is up to me as a teacher, and that's part of being a really good professional teacher. And subsequently, it was extremely rare for me to have problems in a classroom.
So in essence, what you're saying is that sort of amateur psychology, but that every school teacher has, these are the kids in my class, I get to know them, this is what motivates them. You're saying that process isn't occurring at the moment?
Oh, you don't hear a lot about it at all. And
well, it's just that when I talk to school teachers, and secondary or primary or intermediate, the one thing that's been a persistent over the last 20 years in this country, even when I was sitting on Education Select Committee, if you asked to a teacher, what's your biggest problem, they'd say classroom control. It was sort of like number one. The one thing that was stopping them being able to impart schooling as well as they wanted to was they had a classroom control issue.
Yeah,
and that seemed a common refrain.
There are some kids that are tough. They take a little bit more work. But very seriously, classroom control is about your qualities as a teacher. You're not a victim. It's your classroom. You organise things to ensure that the children learn best. When there's someone who's disruptive, you deal with it. If you have to escalate it to deal with it, then you do. But you minimise the distraction in the class that day. You hope that parents are supportive. When they're not, you need to find that support within your school structure. And sometimes you've got to make a tough decision. This child is not going to be in my class for the next couple of days until we've sorted this out. But it's as I say, teachers aren't victims. They get paid well to do a job. In theory, they've been trained. And you've got to work this out. Kids don't learn in a disrupted classroom. And it can be tiny things. I mean, I was teaching at St. Cuth's, and people are going to say, well, girls would never misbehave at St. Cuth's. Not overtly, probably, but it was at the time when cell phones had really just come in. And I'd worked out that if I put a speaker up on my desk and have it turned on, then it made this little, I don't know, noise when a message came in within a few metres. And the girls learned pretty quickly after I answered a few phones to turn the phone off before they came into the class.
Well, that was the other thing that came out of the PISA report. But that's the other thing that came out of the PISA report. The survey found that 46% of New Zealand students get distracted using digital devices in class, which is much greater than the OECD average of 30%. And 40% get distracted by other students using digital devices. That would seem, on the face of it, to back up the stance of the government that cell phones in particular should be banned from schools.
Yeah, but I've never allowed cell phones in classes in any school I've been involved with. So to me, that's cool.
No, but it's amazing that so many do.
It is. But then the second thing that you can do, and I think that this is really important in a classroom, there are programs, because I saw some of those comments where they're saying kids are gaming in class and things like that. If you're teaching, I'm going to say a lot of teachers get distracted. They're doing their emails and, farting around, checking news sites, cruising the internet, seeing how the trade meet's going, and all that kind of stuff. And that happens. I'm sorry if that blows people's mind, but it absolutely does. You can have on your laptop in your classroom, you can have an image of every child. So I try and work where I can see their laptops. Same as in a home. I would never have a kid on a device connected that you can't see. But you can have it on your screen. You can see every child's desktop. So does every teacher have that? Because they ought to, if the children are on devices in their classroom. Hey guys, we're using the laptops today. I can see you've logged in, Michael. Well done. Surprised you didn't get a hiding at the hostel last night, but there must be a way you're working. And all that kind of stuff. So there aren't excuses for the distractions. It's the quality of the leadership and the teaching in the school. And dumping it back on kids is the wrong way to solve it. Parenting comes into that hugely too. And again, how did school go? What did you do today? Is there anything I should know? All of that kind of stuff remains really important. And I'll give you a funny example too in terms of that control. At one school I was teaching, I had they streamed, and I had the top Year 10 class. In theory, well, not in theory, they were doing Year 11 math. And so I was sitting down with them one day and I said, okay, how's all your courses going? And they went around and I said, none of you mentioned math. And they said, oh, yeah, Mr. Smith, he's a bit useless, sir. He can't control us. And I said, sorry? In theory, you're the most intelligent group of Year 10s in our school. He's an intelligent man who knows the subject. Why does he have to control you? Control yourselves.